So welcome everybody. While you're getting yourselves set up and while I'm doing a little bit more of a setup for myself, we can start today's practice in Sukhasana as we usually do. Just seated cross-legged up on a blanket or block if you would like to. If you'd like to get started a little differently today, we have the option of getting started in Vajrasana, where pose we do in class, we're sitting back on the heels. It can be a lot on bodies. You can sit on a block if you would like to, with there's some space between the heels and the sit bones, so there's some space to sit. If you don't want to make use of that, and it is easier to sit here on the legs, but it's a little rough on the ankles, you can roll your blanket up a little bit on one side and just give yourself a little extra lift. But choices today for getting started, either in Sukhasana or Vajrasana. All right, this is running. Hello everybody online. And if you just missed where I was talking about, today we have the option here for getting started either in Sukhasana as we usually do, or in Vajrasana, making use of whatever props you have or need for that thing. Let's log in here real fast. Man, time really blew by when I started chatting. Anybody who's just come through, who has any sort of special requests or needs for your body today that I should be aware of? All right. There's been a request already for backs of the legs, hamstrings, and calves and shoulders. So we'll definitely bring some of that into the practice here. All right, that's working. Sweet. So, in your comfortable seat, make whatever other adjustments you might need to. And if you're here on Monday night, I started off talking a little bit about bringing ourselves into sync with the world around us, which is why, while there will be some opportunity for fiery practice here today, there will also be plenty of opportunity for cooling and checking in with yourself. So as you're settling in, really bring your attention to the breath without making any changes to it, just being aware. Good, there it is. And if you would like a little bit more of a cooling breath to start today, or at any point in your practice when there are periods of stillness, you can stick your tongue out, curl it, and let the sides of your lips close around it just to support it. And it's a great thing to be able to do if your tongue doesn't have the muscles that let it do the wrapping around. And breathe in through the rounded lips and the curled tongue, like you're sipping on a straw. And it doesn't make the air cold per se, but it does give us a sense of coolness with the breath. We're just going to start with a few more rounds breathing just like that. And as I mentioned, you can do that throughout and whenever in your practice. You are also welcome to take Ujjayi breathing as we get started. And you let the hands rest where they are. You can bring your hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra. As we've talked about in class before, this gesture, this symbol of self-reverence. And in the spirit of that, really paying attention to what it is that is happening in the body right now. With an intention of moving in sync with yourself, with those in the class with you. begin the practice here with the sound of one Om. Exhaling completely. To inhale fully. Bowing into yourself. Next inhale, releasing the hands back to your lap, lifting your eyelids, lifting your chin. If you're in Vajrasana or some version thereof and you would like to come out of it for a little bit, we're going to give it just a few more breaths. You can untuck the toes. You can totally switch the cross of your seat if you would like to. You can come into almost like a setup for Ustrasana, which we're not going to get to today, but maybe you're just sitting here on your, or standing here on your knees on your blanket/mat. Welcome. I'll come over and get some stuff for you here in just a second, all right? On the next inhale, we're going to extend our arms out in front of us. Oh, to the sides here, palms forward. And on the next inhale, we're going to spin the palms up, feeling the lift through the upper arms, through the shoulders. And try to keep that lift even as you turn the palms forward. So it's just from the elbows down. External rotation through the arms. Spinning the palms down and forward. Feel how the shoulders come forward, and as the palms turn back, we don't want to say thumbs down, as the palms turn back here. This is internal rotation, where the shoulders start to come forward again. So in the inhale, we're going to return to external rotation into the shoulders, giving us some lift. And again, from the elbows down, turning the palms forward. Bending the elbows, bringing the heels of the palms to the low back. Right, you'll notice there's probably a little interest here already, or a little natural forward movement through the shoulders. Can you hug elbows towards center? They're not trying to touch, but hug towards center and lift a little bit here more through the chest and through the heart. Good, hands keep pressing into the low back, elbows keep hugging to center. On the next inhale, release the hands out to your side once again. One more time with palms spinning up. Then from the elbows down, coming back to neutral. And then very intentionally, internally rotating, letting the shoulders move forward here a little bit more. Inhale to come back to neutral. From neutral to lifting. And then stay lifted as you bring just your palms forward. And on the next exhale, same thing, we're going to reach our hands back behind us. You can take hands to low back again if you would like to. If it's part of your practice, it doesn't feel too early, you can interlace the hands behind you. Maybe the palms find each other. And elbows keep hugging toward each other as we do so. Good. And if you have that, try pulling the hands apart with the interlaced fingers, and as you try pulling the hands apart, can you reach out through the interlaced fingers, lengthening through the arms? And maybe, last step here, the thumbs start to lift a little bit more away from the low back. Good. Inhale to release that, shake out the hands, shimmy through the shoulders, whatever you need to do. And on your next exhalation, we'll take our blocks and things off to the side. Come down into a tabletop position. And for some people, if you would like to take some cat-cow stretches here, you'll have that opportunity for some cat-cow stretches, but being very intentional with the movements. So our cow stretch isn't just the heart pushing forward, but the hands driving down and hugging back to help pull and send the heart forward. Right, that gives us a little bit more opening here again as well. Hands press down and away from you as you engage the core to come into cat. And so this is our cooling, more slow start here for you. Or if you would like to, lowering down onto the forearms. Either pressing the palms together, interlacing the fingers, stepping one or both feet back. You can also have knees down, but they're going to be much further back here for forearm plank. If you have knees down, you're going to be locked in place a little bit more, but knees lifted in your forearm plank. You can start to press the heels away from you and let the shoulders move back a little bit. Then press the balls of the feet away from you to send the shoulders forward, and just make some rocking forward and back movements through the heels. All right, everybody wants to come into this one. Nice. If forearm Vashisthasana does not sound right for you, you can go back to your tabletop, and from your tabletop you can rise up to down dog. Otherwise, setting up for Vashisthasana on our forearms, we're going to uninterlace the fingers. We're going to turn right palm down at an angle. Come onto left fingertips. Spin to the outer edge of the right foot, inner edge of the left foot. And maybe stay here. Maybe left arm reaches up to the sky. We're pushing down into the balls of both feet so the ankles are lifting. And here in our forearm plank, if you would like to, reach your top arm, your left fingertips toward me, toward the front of the room, lifting the hips and making a little bit of a crescent stretch shape in your forearm plank. Or sorry, your forearm side plank. Good. Inhale to come back, arm overhead. Untwist to come back down to the floor. Give the knees a rest if they need to. Lower them down to support the body, or bring left palm down, forearm at an angle. Spin off to the blade edge of the left foot, inner edge of the right. Come onto right fingertips to support you. Maybe right fingertips to the sky. Really pushing down into the left arm. Then maybe right fingertips reaching toward the front of the room here. As the hips lift more towards the sky, making a crescent stretch shape in your Vashisthasana. And on the next inhale, come back down to the floor, lower knees down to the floor. If you would like to take child's pose, do so. Otherwise, as you catch your breath, you can come up to plank, make your way to the floor for rise up for your cobra or sphinx pose, your choice. And on the next exhale, we'll find all of us moving here into down dog. Already some options here for you to figure out where things are in sync for you. From your down dog, you can lift up really high on the heels, walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. As always, if it feels unsteady, you can walk hands back towards your feet. Make use of the blocks here in your forward fold, especially if you would like some stretch through the backs of the legs. So we have more lift through the upper body. We're thinking just spine more parallel to the floor, so we can put more force into the hands and the blocks, feel more weight into the balls of the feet rather than the heels. Tipping forward or leaning forward a little bit if it feels like there's more weight in the heels. Then inner thighs press back. You might feel the inner heels try pushing away from each other as you do that. But focus first on the hamstring stretch if that's what you would like. And maybe after another breath or two here, the elbows start to bend a little bit and you start to fold in. With still long legs, you can certainly bring a little bit of a bend to the knees, but moving in a little slower so there's some space for things to open. And on your next exhale, you can rise through chair or roll up the spine. Ultimately, all of us coming together here to Tadasana, mountain pose. Good. Exhale, hands alongside the body. Lift through the heart, find that opening here through the shoulders without all of the extra stuff that we were doing. Palms forward, lift, full breath. And again, check in with the breath here real fast. How does it feel after just this first portion? We'll move through a Sun Salutation B. It'll probably kick things up a little bit more, and then we'll start to get into it. On the inhale, Sun Salutation B, reach up, rise up. Lift the heels, a little extra thing that I like to do that isn't always there. Good. Heels find the floor. Turn the palms forward, hook the thumbs, and as you try pulling the hands apart, feel the shoulder blades move onto the back, giving some more support and lift to the upper chest. And as the inner thighs press back, engage the core, lift through the heart. We're not trying to bend into the low back. We're just curling up from the mid to upper back, small back bend. Inhale, if you're in it, come back to neutral. All of us on the exhale, settle back and down into the chair. Maybe a little further back in your chair and a little deeper down here. Good. On the exhale, fold in Uttanasana. Inhale, come up just enough to step one foot back and then the other, plank pose. You can skip Chaturanga. You can have the knees down in Chaturanga if you would like to. Or on the exhale, you can move through Chaturanga. And if you're staying in Chaturanga Dandasana, come into Up Dog. Otherwise, take Cobra. Options here. Either Cobra or Up Dog. It is still heart forward. Can you find that feeling of shoulders lifting up, wide, and down the back? Good. Exhale to come back to floor or Chaturanga. Keep your right foot down. Maybe lift the left foot away from the floor. Point the toes. Three-legged plank. Push up through three-legged down dog. On the exhale, take a big step forward. Crescent lunge. Now we're going to do the same thing on the second side. Nice full breath in as you deepen the lunge. Press out through that back heel. And on the exhale, frame it out. Step back right into three-legged dog. Good. From three-legged dog, come forward to three-legged plank. You can bring that left foot to the floor for more stability if you need to. Again, for pranam, supported chaturanga, or chaturanga. Then for all of us, the top of the left foot finds the floor as you move into cobra or up dog side two. Good. Exhale to come back down. Left foot stays on the floor. Can you lift the right foot and let it hover, let the leg lift, move up through three-legged plank, back to three-legged down dog, big step forward, three-legged plank, no, nothing. Everybody knows what they're doing. You're all halfway there. Thank you. Crescent lunge. Already feeling it, yes? Hands hug to center. Lift as you deepen the lunge, and on the exhale, frame it out, step it back, three-legged dog on the right side. If you would like to, regular old down dog is great. Inhale to three-legged plank. Pranam, supported chaturanga or chaturanga. And as you come onto the tops of both feet, rise up for your back bend. Heart forward. Exhale, come down, keep the shoulders lifting. No three-legged anything, push back to down dog. 3 breaths. I mentioned this in class on Monday as well, in the spirit of moving in sync. There was a news report last week that 40% of all cancer diagnoses are preventable. We can move in sync with ourselves. We are more able to check in with ourselves, to make different choices. Inhale, come up really high on the heels. On the exhale, walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. Exhale, fold in. We'll be here for 3 breaths. Again, either using the blocks if you need more for stretching through the backs of the legs, or not. Core is engaging, drawing you into the forward fold. Keeping the shoulders from collapsing toward the ears. You can walk the hands back alongside the feet. You can take hold of the backs of the ankles. Deeper forward fold. Nice, everyone. And on the next inhale, rising up through chair or rolling up the spine. Taking 1 breath in your chair before rising up to meet everybody in Tall Mountain. And on the exhale, hands alongside the body. Check in with the breath once again. How has 3-legged anything, including apparently 3-legged crescent lunge, done for your practice and your breath here? All right. Cool. On the inhale, reach arms up and overhead. standing crescent. You can, if you need to, for whatever reason, keep your left hand alongside the body or to the hips. Otherwise, left hand takes right wrist. Lengthen on the right and ground down through the right foot. On the exhale, reach to the left as you send hips to the right. Send left shoulder blade forward. Send right outer hip forward. Ground down through both feet. Accentuates, extend, expand the stretch on the right side. And on the inhale, come up to neutral. You can reset and come back to mountain if arms overhead is tiring. Or right hand alongside the body, right hand to right hip. Right hand takes left wrist. Lengthen, and from lengthening on the inhale, exhale into the crescent shape. On the inhale, send right shoulder blade forward, left outer hip forward. Next exhale, find a deeper stretch here still. Good. And on the next inhale, rise back up. Arms by your side. Setting up for our transition as we start to get into things. If balancing on one leg does not feel right for you as we typically move through the opening part here, you are welcome to come forward into a forward fold with the blocks. Step right foot back, rise up. All right. On the inhale from your mountain pose, as you stand down into the left foot, lift the right knee parallel to the floor. Keep that foot active like it's stepping on the next step. You're about to walk up a staircase. On the inhale, reach arms up and overhead. Good. Engage the core. That's where a lot of our balance is, not just the little tubes in our ears. And on the exhale, as you hinge from the hips, reach forward, extend that back leg back. If you have arms overhead, you can keep reaching forward toward me as the front knee bends to bring the back foot to the floor. And as soon as you do, connect belly and thigh, stay low here. And with belly and thigh connected, push into the left foot to rise up. Good. Inner right thigh lifts, inner right heel lifts. Deepen into the left knee if you can, keeping it over the ankle. And on the next exhale, reach your arms forward. We've got our left knee forward. We're going to take right elbow inside the left. Either give yourself a big hug, lifting shoulders and elbows in line. Maybe bring the backs of the palms to touch. Again, shoulders and elbows find each other in line. Or fronts of the palms touch, Garudasana arms. So very intentionally pulling shoulder blades apart. Good. On the inhale, as we unfurl, we're going to spin that back heel down and open into Warrior Two. So you'll adjust your stance, probably a little different from your crescent. Hug feet to center, hug shoulder blades to center again. Just notice the difference. On our way to triangle pose, Trikonasana. Left foot pushes down and away. Help to straighten that front leg. Keep sending the hips towards the back of your mat as left hand reaches forward. Bring the hand to the inside or outside of the shin on a floor or the block. And if you need to bring hand to shin, we're not pushing down into the shin. The shin is pushing back up into the hand. And if you can, with forearm pressing into the inner left thigh, can you spin the torso a little bit more open? And you keep tucking left sit bone toward left heel so the hip isn't jutting out. Good. Keep the right ear lifting. And on the next exhale, front knee bends, coming into Parsvakonasana. You can bring forearm onto thigh if you need to. But now, right forearm, right bicep actually reaches alongside the ear toward the front of the room. Good. On the exhale, as you're ready, bring both hands to the inside of that foot. Spin up to ball of the right foot. Turn your left toes off to the left. You can walk that foot part way back your mat if you need to. Another modification for Vashisthasana. You can lower right knee down, take right foot wide if you need to. Otherwise, Roll to the blade edge of the right foot. Stand down through the left foot. Push down through the entire length of the right arm as you take left arm to the sky. The more you stand into that left leg, the more work you get on the outer hip. Shoulder blades keep hugging the center, even as fingers try to put more distance between each other. And maybe that left foot steps back. Maybe it stacks on top of right. And on the exhale, left hand finds the floor, plank pose. Either down dog or tabletop, whichever is right for you in this moment. Again, a moment to check in with the breath. Other interesting news this past week about being in sync with ourselves. They found caves on the moon. They're talking about people living in caves again on the moon, which is where we started very, very long ago here on Earth as well. Finding the things that work for us. Good. On your exhale, walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. If you're in child's pose, however you would like to, make your way up to your Uttanasana. Good. We have a second side to do of that. With stretch here and length through the back of the legs. Come up halfway, bring hands to thighs, or you can bring hands to hips. And just feel how the hips are tilting forward. The pubic bone is more down toward the floor as sit bones are lifting a little bit. And with ever so slight bend through the knees and strong through your core, push up through the space behind the heart to rise up into mountain pose once again. Good. Shake things out. Side two. Same thing, if you need to have blocks to give you some support in Warrior 3 for the transition, do so. Otherwise, as you find your breath and you find your stability, we're putting weight into the right foot, lifting left knee parallel to the floor. Left foot stays active. Hands can be alongside the body or overhead. And as you hinge forward from the hips, reach to the front of the room, kick out through the back of the back foot. And if there is space to pause for a second, keep reaching to the front of the room like you're trying to move toward me, even as the front knee bends and that foot moves back. Good. Again, connect belly to thigh to start here. And as you stand into the right foot, rise up to your crescent lunge. Nice full breath in. On the exhale, bring your hands in front of you. You're going to take left elbow into the right, so we have to bring shoulder blades apart to do so. Give yourself a hug. Back of the palms, front of the palms. And if you're doing front of the palms, can you check in with your wrists? If they're twisting and making the shape that is not neutral through both sides, bring the back of the hands to touch. Good. Maybe the elbows lift to be in line with the shoulders. That sends the shoulder blades down the back. And on the inhale, as you unfurl through the hands of your Garudasana, open into Warrior 2, second side. Good. Nice, everyone. Again, adjust as needed. Lengthen your stance, shorten your stance, widen, maybe narrow. After the shoulder blades are pulling apart, bring them onto the back. Find your fire. So we're lengthening through the back of the spine, helps right sit bone chase towards the right heel. On our way to triangle pose, Trikonasana. Right foot pushes down and away. Exhale, reach. Complete the exhale as you turn the palms down. Ash, I need to get her a blanket. Reach to the top of your mat, the top to the sky. And in just a second here, hey. I see. On your next exhale, we're going to find Parsvakonasana. Front knee bends. Make the adjustment to the bottom arm. It can stay to the floor, it can come to the forearm. Take a breath here. The wrist is acting up more so than usual, or something new? All right. You are welcome to just rest if you would like to. For everyone who's hanging out here, we have our Vashisthasana transition. On the exhale, bring that top arm and bottom arm to the inside of your front foot. Turn your right toes away from you. Walk the toes back a couple of steps or the feet back a couple of steps. You can come onto the blade edge of the left foot or left knee down. Left foot moves wider. But as you push down through the length of the left arm, stand through the right leg. Keep pushing through the big toe ball mound of that back foot. So the ankle is lifting. Again, we're putting more space between the fingers, but not because the shoulder blades are coming apart, but because we're finding more space between wrist and elbow, between elbow and shoulder. Good. Vinyasa flow here after this. On your next inhale, come down to place both hands, step back to a plank. You can take child's pose. You can come into cat-cow stretches in your table if you would like to, or move through your flow just to down dog. We're not going to come to standing again just yet. We have some Shalabhasana stuff that we did last week that we're returning to this week. Good. From your down dogs, inhale to plank, lower knees to the floor. Have a seat back on the heels or sit cross-legged, however you would like to. And take a pause with your body, check in with the breath, get some water, whatever you would like to do. Last week when we were playing with Shalabhasana, we gave some other options. Those remain true for everyone today as well. Instead of rising up and then rising up, arms first and then legs first, you can with arms back beside you, or come onto the blade edges of the feet, or the arms and hands in front of you. Play between lifting opposite sides and grounding through the other opposite sides. So as I push down into the blade edge of the left hand and into my right foot, I lift the right hand and left foot. I take a breath or two here. We played with this last week. Maybe some of us are playing with holding this for 3 breaths, maybe 5 breaths before switching. Coming up to the other side, switching if you would like to. The other thing that we were playing with last week is Shalabhasana in the more Ashtanga style, where we have the body resting on top of the length of the arms. So we're putting weight onto the wrists, we're putting weight onto the elbows. It is not for everybody, it is not for me all the time either. Lately it's been, which is why we're doing it here. So the shoulders coming apart is really helpful to bring arms in front of you. You can be here where you are, even standing up on your arms. Just notice what it takes to bring hands slightly forward, to try to bring pinky fingers touching. And instead of everything pushing forward with pinky fingers touching, can you try hugging the backs of the hands more toward the thighs? So you'll feel a real forward movement through the shoulders. There's a lot of reasons to not do that, so we're just checking here if you would like to. If you're moving further here with me in this, we come down onto our bodies just like we would normally with Shalabhasana. Lean a little bit to one side so I can bring hand underneath thigh. Putting a little bit of weight on the elbow, great time just to check in, does this feel good on this arm? Then we put a lot more pressure on that to lift the other side so we can bring right hand, right arm underneath. Probably nose to the floor. If you're familiar with it, if you're comfortable with it, if you know your body, you can bring chin to the floor with your gaze a little bit more forward. Good. And you can adjust here as well. And septum piercings do not work for having your nose on the floor, I see. On the inhale, if you're here with this variation, otherwise move into your other variations. We're pushing down through the hands and practice with lifting just one leg first. Point through the toes, keep pushing the other foot down into the floor. Take a breath or two there. Bring that leg back down. Switch sides or release if something is not feeling right here for you. We'll do this for another 2 breaths. We have these options here for doing the opposite sides. On our next breath, if you would like to, whether you have arms underneath you or not, you can practice with lifting both legs away from the floor as you push both hands down into the floor, or any other variation you're coming up into your standard Shalabhasana or locust pose. Nice, everyone. Nice. On the exhale, lower feet down. Wiggle a little bit the body from side to side so you can free up the hands, however you need to get out of it. Make a pillow with your hands. And now definitely check in with the breath. What is happening as your heart rate increases, as you push up against gravity? Do you notice stuff about your heart rate and your breath and the sensations in your body for having fought against gravity here for a little bit? Good. Bring your hands alongside you. Tuck the toes. Push up and back to down dog. From down dog, walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mats. Inhale, halfway lift. Deepen your forward fold wherever you are at this point in the practice, about 35 minutes in. And on the next inhale, either moving through chair, rolling up the spine, reverse swan diving, whatever makes sense for you to come to stand, with the arms reaching high to the sky, lifting the heels away from the floor, and then grounding the heels before taking this into a little bit of a back bend, Anuvattasana. And on the exhale, come back to your mountain pose. Good. We're going to take our things and we're going to move to the walls. It's not as scary as it has to sound. It doesn't have to be as scary as it sounds. There's the words. So while we're getting ourselves set up here, we have a couple of places to play. We'll see how people feel in these. The wall does not have to be about giving us an inversion. For some of us, certainly depending on the space that we have there, we can use the wall to give us some support for some deeper balances. I shouldn't push into it. All right. So we've been playing with dolphin for the past couple of weeks. Good for stretching out the backs of the legs. Great for those are the hamstrings. Good for shoulders and building strength in the upper body. We're moving to the wall because for some of us, having the wall there is really helpful for taking our dolphin pose into a forearm stand if you would like to. We're also near the wall because we can use that for some support coming into shoulder stand later on in class if that's also where your body would like to go to. But rather than it having to be about going into an inversion, some of us will find ourselves doing Prasarita Padottanasana, which is this wide-legged forward fold, which is just a different relationship to the floor. Some things about it can feel a little more difficult. Some things about it can feel a little bit easier. Instead of this, for the people who are wanting to just be down on the floor for a bit, I think we're probably good with space. We might space out for some of us. What we can do is to sit just a little bit away from the floor or the wall so that the back of our head is pressing into the wall. So we have some support here through the back body. And we can take Upavista Konasana. I think it's called Upavista Konasana 2, a flying variation of it. But Upavista is here like this in the forward fold. You'll notice there's a tendency to start to round the back, and where we're working toward going, and I use yogic toe lock to do this, is to keep the low back reaching in. neutral through the spine, and then using the work of the strength of the upper body and the core to pull myself forward into Upavista Konasana. We can also take that, though, with the support of the wall behind us into Upavista Konasana too. So we've got our head pressing into the wall to give us some support while we do the work of building strength and balance through the core to hold us upright. You can do that for boat pose as well, which is why I've got us at the wall for some of us. There's lots of core work happening there, which is why that's the alternative, because dolphin pose and forearm stand are definitely core work as well. So if you would like the first set of options, I will give some cues here. For the people who have their own practice and know it, if you would like to come into dolphin pose without cues and take your dolphin pose into forearm balance without cues, you are welcome to do so. And I will ultimately get to a place where I'm giving cues if there's some people who would like that. All right? For those of you who are here for playing with using the wall for some supports for some other sorts of core work, you're going to have a seat just a few inches away from the wall so that when you lean back a little bit and the back of the head finds the wall, you notice that there is some lift and space and like neutral, right? We're not collapsing into the low back, or it's not like the crown of our head pushing into the wall. And as we scooch forward just a little bit, we can draw knees in. You can bring hands to knees or thighs or yogic toe lock. And again, as you push into the back of the wall, the back of the head into the wall, engage the core, draw knees towards the outer shoulders, and maybe start to extend out through the heels as you try to take the feet wider. If you have neighbor with you, say hello to your neighbor. Nice. And Carrie, if you want to, we're also near the wall. You were talking about scorpion. You can let the wall give you some support to add a little bit of a back bend here without losing that connection to the shoulders. And that's true for everybody here as well. Good. If you have your balance, if you would like to, you can move a little bit away from the wall and practice balance or support here without using it. Maybe it's too soon to come into that right away. Or the other thing I mentioned, instead of legs wide, you can start to bring the legs to center, whether you have yogic toe lock or not, for some support with the wall in Navasana or boat pose. And again, if you would rather not have the wall or you don't need to use the wall, you can find your boat pose a little further away, moving through knees bent, shins lifting, maybe also getting to a place where it's straight legs. Good. And while there's some exploration here for some of us, you can start to move into dolphin if you haven't. Your dolphin can move into, forearm stand if you would like to. I'll know that we're all done with this because we'll find ourselves in Balasana or child's pose. Another thing I was talking about last week, good. Great prep for forearm stand is dolphin pose. And the internet said somewhere at some point in time that if you can hold your dolphin pose for 20 seconds, that you're building some good strength and good support and awareness in your body to then more naturally or organically move into a forearm stand. Also, it doesn't have to be true for everybody. Nice. Jerome, right? Yeah. When you're up there, just work toward big toe ball mounts hugging to center instead of the feet going this way, which is like just a natural thing, like that changes the hips and the low back. Can you keep the feet more neutral, big toe ball mounts hugging to center, so it's like straight up. So it's like this. Standing instead of like that, standing. Yeah, it's just, there's always more things. There's always more things. All right, everybody. If you'd like to play a little bit more, feel free to, but I do have to keep us moving here. If you're in child's pose, nice. Come out of your child's pose. Sit up here real fast. We're coming into bridge pose. Now we're stretching out the front of the body. We can take our bridge pose in a couple of different ways. You don't have to use the wall at all for support if you have no need for it. Hopefully people on camera can see. It's harder to move things around. I'm going to just come over here and use the space right beside you, all right? So we can take our bridge pose much closer to the wall without having to do anything further. There's just a different sensation with the toes kind of lifted and really pushing down into the big toe ball mounds. As we rise up into our bridge pose, shoulder blades hug a little bit more toward the center again. We're stretching out the whole front side of the body, but then we have the option to walk one foot up the wall, to walk another foot up the wall, to push into the feet to lift hips up away from the wall, and we can bring hands to the low back for a modified or supported shoulder stand. Instead of, it should be hands, fingers reaching towards the sky. You can also let the hips come a little further back and take your shoulder stand with a little bit more of support for the natural curve of the low back instead of trying to bring everything overhead. So this is pretty intense. This is a way to lighten it a little bit. And you have the wall to give you some support, to come back down, to bring your feet down. Other thing that you can do is in your bridge pose, to have your feet on blocks. So there's already like 6 inches or whatever it is on there of your feet lifted. That might give you a little bit more space. I can do this a little differently just as where my practice is. But with the feet lifted, it can be a little bit easier to bring one hand underneath, other hand underneath. Knee comes forward to help guide and lift the other leg to extend up. You just have to figure out where the block is when you're coming down. And I can give some support for that. I can remove the blocks if you'd like to. The reason I asked for everybody to get a blanket though, and if you don't have one but would like one, I will get one for you, is if you have, let's see, it's probably just like this. The way that it comes off the, is there, no, that was a weird noise. It sounded like, yeah, all right. I was like, construction maybe is starting soon. To take your blanket that you have just like it comes off of here, and like a cape, have the folded part of the mat come to the top of the shoulders. That'll give this much extra space lift between your neck and the floor. And there's a tendency for the neck to collapse both in bridge pose and in shoulder stand. So you'd come to lie down on your backs with the fringe part underneath the low back and the rounded folded part at the top of your shoulder blades, or the very top of your shoulders, I should say. And whether you're going into shoulder stand or not, when we're in bridge, when we're in shoulder stand, our gaze is only ever straight up to the sky. Don't turn the head in shoulder stand. It is support, but not a lot of effort. But we don't need to twist and move into the neck in not helpful ways. So with your blanket there, if you're using it, bring your arms alongside the body, hug elbows alongside the body, just to broaden the shoulders a little bit. Then you're intentionally trying to hug shoulder blades together. So we're making our entire upper body just a little more engaged, a little bit more as one. Stand through the feet as you push down through the upper arms to rise up into your bridge. Check how this feels. Andrea, if you're going up a little further, you might want to move a little closer to with your bridge. Good. If you'd like to, same for you, Shreya. You can place one foot on the wall, place the other foot on the wall, probably you as well, David, a little closer. You can bring the hands underneath as you press the feet into the wall because the hips are lifting. Good, yes, also a nice way to come through. If you're in shoulder stand, be very intentional if the feet are starting to come in line with the eyes, if they're starting to come over the forehead. We want to be intentional and move into plow because we want to and because we're taking the steps to. Otherwise, gravity is just going to pull everything down in the way that gravity does, and it doesn't care about how your body's going to react to it. In a nice place in between for plow pose. If the feet can't touch the floor, you can just bring the knees to the forehead. That is an intermediate step along the way. There is a deep forward fold happening there to do that. And if you have your knees on your forehead and you want to extend one leg and just practice and see how that foot gets to the floor or not, you can switch sides. For those of you who are coming out of bridge or Shalabhat or shoulder stand already, if you know Matsyasana, you can come into fish posture. It's a nice counterbalance. If you would still like a bigger back bend here before we wind down the practice, we got about 8 minutes to go. You can come out of your bridge, out of your shoulder stand, and move into wheel pose, Urdhva Dhanurasana. Again, you have the wall there to give you some extra support. The feet aren't going to come up, but you have more to ground the feet and keep them from spinning out, which normally happens when we start to rise up into a back bend. Nice. Nice, everyone. Nice. The people who are in Urdhva Dhanurasana, you can be here for another 2 or 3 breaths if you have it. For those of you who are done with whatever other things are happening, you can scoot yourself just a little bit away from the wall. Bring your knees to touch, take your feet as wide as the mat, and find a windshield wiper action flowing movement through the hips here. We'll do this just for about another minute. If you would like to, you can stay on one side for the inhale. You can deepen however you would like to. Take that bottom foot on top of the top leg. Visvavajrasana, one of my favorite Sanskrit words to say because of all the V's. Good. Nice with the variations, nice with exploring. Keeping the twist to the lower portion of the body, the shoulder blades grounded. Everybody looks really good. Find about an even amount of time on both sides. Then if some of you are interested in starting to come to the end of your practice already, you can stay on your backs, but bring your legs into Baddha Konasana legs. You can place blocks underneath the outer hips. We still have a few more minutes. We're going to do a little bit more, but for those of you who are listening to your body and your body is saying, time to take a rest, go for it. Otherwise, as you come out of your flowing motion, knees to chest, you can rock and roll on up. Be mindful that you don't rock into the wall. It will catch you though. You can roll off to and you'll spin to face the front of the center of the room here with your legs extended out to start in Dandasana pose, staff. Good, notice how things feel in the hips. If you would like to, sit up on a blanket or sit on the edge of the blanket so again you feel the pubic bone tilting forward rather than leaning back. And you can bend the knees a little bit or a lot to support that. You can come onto fingertips behind you so we're lifting. Bring both heels in a lot closer. Let the knees move wide as the soles of the feet come to touch. You can adjust your seat so that you're more on the fronts of the sit bones. It's the same thing as pubic bone forward. And either stay more upright with support of the hands and fingers behind you. Maybe it's that shoulder or that elbows hugging to center so there's a little bit of a back bend and heart opening happening here in your Baddha Konasana. You can walk your hands forward. As you fold in, if it makes it more accessible, you can let the balls of the feet come apart as you continue to push the heels into each other and hug the knees into the hips, folding forward. Without the shoulder blades fully coming apart, Press your finger pads down, lift the palms away from the floor. So you have this lifting through the outer armpits and outer shoulders. And on the exhales, we engage our core a little bit more. Pull yourself into the forward fold so you can wiggle or walk the fingers maybe just half an inch, maybe a whole inch further forward. Exhaling. And on the next inhale, take your gaze a little bit more forward so you're finding ever so slightly of like a cow stretch here in your forward fold. Palms can come back down to the floor. Hug shoulder blades on the back so we're sending heart forward here a little bit more. And on the inhale, as the hands walk in, also push into the ankles and the outer shins. So there's this downward pushing movement to help you rise back up without it just having to be back strength. Bring the knees to touch, extend the legs out in front of you. Again, there can be a little bit of a bend to those knees if that gives you more freedom through the hips. It gives you more lift through the low back. And as we come into our Paschimottanasana, maybe over the course of the next couple of breaths, the inner thighs keep getting heavier until the legs are more fully extended and long. And inhale, lift again through the heart. Kind of figure out and notice where the space is with the chin. So that rather than the chin dropping as we come forward, can we send the heart forward and keep the distance between the heart and the chin about the same. Keep hugging big toe ball mounts to center. Inner thighs heavy, so we have this opening through the sit bones and through the low back, which may give you some more space to lengthen and extend out over the legs. You can take hold of shins, ankles, blade edges of the feet, yogic toe lock. Certainly if you're doing yogic toe lock, you're pushing the big toe ball mounts forward, you're pushing the big toe forward. Nice. And we'll be here for just about 3 breaths. So each inhale, there's a little bit more lift through the heart. On each exhale, there's a little bit more contraction through the front body to draw us forward. And on the next inhale, slowly start to come up. Sit down through the sit bones, through the backs of the legs. Sit and get nice and tall here in your Dandasana pose. And on your exhale, you can scoot yourself forward a little bit, however you need to come to lay down on your backs. If you know that you would like to take a nice big stretch at the end of class, you can move your mat a little bit more away from the floor so the wall doesn't prevent the extension of the arms. And on the exhale, come into your Shavasana. It's 1 o'clock. I'm getting us right into it. Another place just to tune into your breath. Even as the body settles, as we invite stillness into our practice. Our breath, our heart rate, our blood pressure will all naturally settle as we create the space for that to happen. And finding ourselves in sync with ourselves. Coming into a practice, a group practice, and finding yourselves in sync with those around you. Sometimes it is just the feeling of community that helps us to walk away from a class feeling really, really good. What else has been possible in your life? What else is possible when you can move in sync with the people around you and the people can be in sync with you? When you can make yourself in sync with the natural world around you. Let your next inhale be deeper than the last. And your next inhalation deeper still. Bring whatever little movements back to the body that feel right as we move from pause and stillness back into movement and effort. Reawakening in your way. And ultimately coming up to find yourself in a seated posture. Maybe it's Sukhasana, maybe it's Vajrasana. I think about 2 years ago there was a yoga class on the roof of a gym in New York City, and they had everybody out there doing yoga because yoga is good and healthy, and there was the worst air quality in the world because of the fires in California, in Canada. We can use yoga to make ourselves in sync and to get in touch with ourselves. We can also really not listen to that, and yoga can be dangerous for us when we aren't listening to our body or when we are doing things that really do put us out of sync. If it's 100 degrees outside, we should be having water, and if there's air quality is the worst in the world, we should not be out asking ourselves to take deep, full breaths in it. So, as we wrap up our practice here today, we're on the end of a heat wave 3 now, I saw on the news. How do we let ourselves naturally move with what is asked of us and what is needed of us based on the context of everything around us? We'll close out the practice here with the sound of one Om. You can bring your hands to heart center or let them rest where they might for yourself. Exhale completely. To inhale fully. The light in me bows to the light in each of you. Namaste. That final Om on classes like this show us how we make ourselves in sync just with an hour of practice. Thank you everyone for coming out today on this very hot day. We gave ourselves lots of options. We did not increase the temperature of the air today. It stayed at 74, so that's awesome. Yes. The message when you first came through, next Monday, Tuesday, and it looks like Wednesday as well, there will be no classes at the because there's a construction project happening downstairs. I don't know what all it entails, but we will still be here the day after all of that with some different things happening here. So follow up online to see that that does come to an end on Wednesday and that Thursday things are running. There is outdoor yoga at the pier on Thursday at 6 o'clock and actually Monday at 6 o'clock if you would still like a yoga. There are some things coming up here as well. There's a person coming through. I signed up for both of his classes. I don't know if they should have done that or not yet. But there is a flight school with Khalif on Saturday the 10th from 1 to 3. 2 hours of preparing for and doing some inversions and some arm balances. And then there's an hour break, and then from 4 to 6 that same day with Khalif is an Astra Pranayama workshop. Online it says we'll be starting off with a gentle-ish yoga practice, followed by a lot of breath work in the end. So those two things are coming up. Other stuff happening. The 200-hour teacher training starts in September. Anisha and Adriana are already doing some interviews with people around that. If you're interested in that and getting more information, check that out. Community classes have expanded. There's now Mondays at 6 p.m. as well as Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30 in the morning. Next Saturday, this Saturday, Foundations of Teaching Beginners Yoga with Eric. It's the whole weekend, I should say, Saturday and Sunday. And then they're also doing a Fundamentals of Teaching Restorative Yoga the first weekend of August. Lots of other stuff coming up. Follow us online. Follow your inbox with whatever email blasts go out. We got a lot of stuff happening here for August. And then we definitely kick into high gear with the teacher training starting in September. So be well, stay safe, stay cool, stay hydrated. Have a great day. It was great seeing everybody today. You're welcome. Plenty of options, Jerome, in class to keep going?
Yeah.
Options? Good, good, good.
Yeah, it was good.
Good.
I folded on a few things and did the lighter maneuver, but
That's fine. I do that sometimes as well. That's great.
Pointer about my alignment there.
Yeah. There's always something new to add.
Hadn't in a while, so
Yeah, I can keep out and give her any other sort of extra
yeah,
cues
very
along the way.
helpful, actually.
Good, awesome,
Good
great.
plan. I
I'll
appreciate
see you. You're welcome. Let's cut this off. Thank you, everybody online. Great seeing you, Rachel and Jackie. Lisa, when you watch this later, hello to you.